Welcome to the Rebel Mike podcast. I'm Amy Sheesh, and we're here with Lance Dewbre of the Clarity Coaching Center. He's our in-house, in podcast NLP coach. And if you haven't seen the episodes with Emily Ann and Tasha, run, don't walk, go watch them. They're so good. And we've been releasing mini clips on like TikTok and YouTube where you get to see us laugh. And healing doesn't, I had this thought today. Healing was fun with Tasha. She was laughing, and I'm like, it doesn't have to be painful or traumatic or you're like shaking and convulsing and crying. It can be that. But we've kind of seen that in community. I would like to say our sessions so far have been in community. Would you say that, Lance?
Yeah, absolutely.
They tend to be fun. And it's just, if you're going to heal and you're going to release these things, and here's the fun part. We haven't shown you Tasha's follow-up because we haven't done it yet. But Tasha gets a hold of me all the time. And some of the stuff that you're going to find out, and Lance doesn't even know, but some of the stuff you're going to find out that has happened in her life since her breakthrough session here on the Rebel Mike podcast is phenomenal. And, Lance is a big part of that. How do you say it? You play tug of war with people, but they don't even know that they're playing tug of war.
I like that. I like that
I like it.
analogy. Yeah, because we don't realize that what we're in the way of. That's why we need help. We all need help. I mean, I've had 30, I don't even know now how many coaches and people over the years, right? I'm always looking for another angle, another way to look at it. And yeah, sometimes it's funny. I people will be like, I don't even know what I want to let go of. I go, don't worry, I'll figure it out, and I'll just poke the bear a little bit, I just kind of
Don't don't show up to a session with Lance that way. I've done it. I have never had snot bubbles until that day. So do not show up to Lance and be like, I don't know what I want to fix or work on, because he will pull stuff out of you that you were not ready for. Like the stuff that came out of my mouth that night. Do you remember that night?
I do.
The stuff that came out of me, I'd never said or thought it that way. But as soon as it came out, I knew it was the truth of why I was so trapped by it. And I'll give you an example, but I'm not going to give away what it was because it's something too personal. But I literally was like, I killed this person because I didn't have the information to make the decisions that would not harm them. Now, mind you, this person is still breathing and alive. I've not committed any sort of crime like that. But I felt like the decisions I made for this person's life that had a bad reaction consequence of that choice, it affected their life for a very long time. And I felt guilty to the point where I felt in my soul, like even though they're alive and moving and walking, I've actually killed them because I've taken their life away by making this decision. Okay. And it was so funny because at one point Lance goes, what if you forgiving yourself frees this person to heal? And I was like, it's not going to work like that. And now, mind you, I'm hysterical. And Lance is like, but what if it does? And I was like, fine, because I'll just hate myself if it doesn't. I kid you not. I went and saw this person within, what was it? We did that on like a Thursday. I saw them on a Saturday or a Sunday. I literally had a woman come over to me in tears telling me that her autistic son had never spoken a word ever. This kid was like 16. But because of the person I was there with who could not deal with other humans in any shape, form, capacity, that person had stepped up and was being a leader. She cried. I bawled. I called Lance on the way home and I'm like, you're not even going to believe this. And he's like, I'm not even surprised. So I'm just warning you, if you show up to a session with Lance Dewbre and you say, I don't even know what I want to work on, it's probably going to change your life, but it's going to be the most painful, gut-wrenching, horrific moment of your life getting there. But I promise you, it's worth it. It's worth it. And Lance, I see you
Sounds
laughing,
awful.
but that session, we had great
Oh,
sessions, but that session was tough. And I showed up and was like, I don't know what I want to work on. So he was just like, what's the biggest problem? He was all cool, Rico Suave. So okay, let's get on task here because we can play like this forever. So we were talking a couple weeks ago, and Lance goes, that's just the stories we tell ourselves. And we were both like, this is a great podcast because everybody tells a story on their lineage, themselves, their decisions in life. Like you made a mistake, and instead of just being like, yeah, I made that mistake, let's move on, you're like, yeah, but I was tired because they didn't let me sleep because I had this, and this going. I'm gonna say it. Not everybody cares. Like a lot of people are just looking at the outcome, but we want to talk about these stories we tell ourselves and like why we feel the need to defend ourselves. And we have a special guest coming in the near future. They couldn't make it tonight, so we're gonna have them on later. And trust me, you probably don't have it the worst. And when I meet people that they have it pretty bad, they have the best outlooks on life, we all need to be listening to them because they're incredible. So, Lance, what is a recurring story you've told yourself that led you to NLP? Now, you need to go back and watch our first kind of lone podcast, Burn the Ships. Again, Run Don't Walk. It's on YouTube and on Podbean, but we're gonna go deeper this time because he was kind of giving an overall. So, Lance, what is the story that almost wrecked you?
ooh, what is the story that almost wrecked me?
Hmm.
I definitely have one that comes to mind. I think one of the easiest way to describe this that everyone else could relate to is the I'm not enough in some way.
Mm, mm.
I think it's a big theme.
Which also feeds into the not worthy, don't trust myself. If I don't like me, nobody else can like me. That theme.
Very much that theme.
So what's the story though? Like why would Lance believe people don't like Lance? Because you're super likable, dude. Like you do these dancing competitions, you're fun, you're witty, you're caring, you're sensitive, you're tapped into your masculine and your feminine sides. Like you're not afraid to like go deep. So what would make you think that?
I mean, I really appreciate the compliment. That's very sweet. I'm still working on myself every day. I still am. I still see layers of myself that, maybe the system's automatically assuming it's not going to work out, or the girl's not going to like the me, or maybe the dance, or I've been dancing for 15 years, but I can still get nervous on the next dance floor, on the next ask. I think it's human. And I think there's a piece of that that's human that we have to just come to understanding that that's just reality. And there's another piece of it that is like embedded patterns that we've repeated with probably without awareness. I know we talk about just a little bit of knowledge here. They say our unconscious mind. So you have a conscious mind, which is what we're using now to look around, be aware of. I want to think about a peanut butter jelly sandwich. I can put my awareness on a PB&J, right? Whatever that is, like your beautiful background of beaches, we can think about beaches. But then we have an unconscious mind that runs all the processing, all the systems. We're not eating a chicken fried chicken and constantly telling the molecules, to go to the bicep. It's not really how it works. That'd be a lot of effort. So thankfully, God was brilliant enough to say, "Hey, I'm going to have something that's automatic, and then have something that you can use to put your focus on and create." And yes, there's can be some major things. I, for one, grew up in quite a religious background. My father was one that was even taught things like if you wear a watch, you'll go to hell, or if you love what you do, you go to hell. If you played guitar, you'll go to hell, and like these things. And so he at least was a big person that was getting away from that, was helping the church to move from that. So I didn't grow up in it necessarily, but ooh, it was around me, wasn't it? So, it's interesting of like what got in there. I'll tell you a story that really started this all more than any other story that I've shared. And let's go ahead and go to some nice detail today. So I'll give you some much details I can remember. So actually give me a second here because this is actually the core memory of all things I've worked on, be this one. So when I was about 7 years old, my dad was known as an Pentecostal preacher or inner healing pastor, things like that. And what that was for is basically just helping people use the Lord, the Holy Spirit, Jesus to go back to original events and help them be released. So during that time, I was there at church quite often. They had a youth service. I remember being about 7 years old, and I can even I can feel it now. You, my stomach still like blue, 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 blue. Oh man, I can feel myself even getting hot. Like you're right. So you have these things. I worked on this many, many times, probably 100 times, right? And so there's different layers to things that we have to understand as being a human. It's not all right, perfect, and where there's definitely tools that can create change deeper and faster, right, than other things than that just prolong it, right? I'm more interested in getting in and clearing it, right? So you can handle it like I can talking about it now, even if I do feel things come up, which is okay. Yeah. So I remember what happened is this was a substitute teacher of some sort, and she came into the class and got everyone together. And I remember I was actually drawing Jesus. So there was a Jesus, and I had a bunch of crayons, and I'm drawing with Jesus, and I'm having a good time. I'm being a kid. I'm doing my crayon thing, right, Raw? I think we can all relate with that. And she says, I really want everyone's attention. And she starts getting into this explanation of like, hey, have anyone ever heard of hell? We're all like, yeah, we've heard of hell, And she's like, well, that place is real serious. Like, have you kids ever touched a boiling water or maybe like a hot stove? And we kind of looked around at each other. I was like, yeah, that sucks. And she's like, yeah, it's like that, but it's your entire body. I was like, oh my gosh, wow. And she starts getting more and more detail about it. It's like, well, it's like being thrown in the oven, kids, and then we're just gonna, roast you. We're gonna turn it all the way up, and like you're gonna be stuck in this place called hell, and you're just gonna roast, because you did what you decided that you loved to do. Because you enjoy it, you're therefore sinning, you're somehow serving Satan. So I had a very interesting mix of like enjoying life equals serving Satan.
Whoa.
So I remember I'm drawn. She says this. She even gives more detail about. I still can see the image I created. She said, "Yeah, and what will happen is you'll be sent to hell and you'll bleed out, and then you'll like right before you're done, you'll kind of like it'll come back because you'll just have to keep repeating that torture basically." And then God will be up there. But I remember looking down in this pit and going up, and it was like this see-through bubble. And he's like, "Yeah, Jesus would help you, but you did what you wanted. So sorry, sucks." There's a bubble there, and sucks to suck, bro. So I remember, yeah, I remember going downstairs and going to my family. I still remember my mom being like, "You okay?" I was just like, "Yeah." I didn't really know what to say, I don't think. And I just remember making this vow to myself. And oh, have we ever done this before? I went, well, I either suffer now or I suffer for eternity. I guess I better suffer here. So not only did I say I need to suffer here, but I even marked I basically have to suffer, and then if I enjoy what I'm doing, I'm serving Satan, so I definitely can't have fun in any way. And yeah, I had this very strange like a lot of, hellfire, brimstone. And then I had, just to maybe finish this, what really put that in was I had about seven other pastors tell me, because I went to church all the time, different churches. They'd always, at the end of the day, like, hey, come to the run to the front, if whatever. Well, man, I bubble up every time and just want to spew my guts. And so I'd run down the front. But here's the issue. I'd say, this voice is telling me I'm going to hell. And they would say, oh, that's Jesus talking to you. It's a good thing you came down here. The issue was they got implanted in me six, seven times, and I got associated to that anger, fear voice being God's voice. So when you think about two or three major incisions there, wow, what a word! God, wow, yeah. I mean, like this, putting in and like installing, these like things, and then yeah, I feel like pausing there.
Okay, Lance. We have talked about this before, but that went. So I want to touch on a few things. To me, that is trauma-based, mind control, trauma-based bonding to a religion, right? Which I honestly I grew up in it too, by the way, people like I was a Pentecostal preacher's daughter myself. So, but my dad was different, like we were around the big preachers and we went to these things, but I was a wild child and nobody could tame me. So like I was worried about stealing M&Ms and like run into my dad with my stolen M&Ms and like there's stories, but whatever. But the fact that they use touching a stove or boiling water, which is something every child is told not to do, but every child has experienced a burn at a level where they're like, "Oh, I see why I was told not to do that," right? So they connect it to a feeling, right? And you said the word incision, which is huge because even you were kind of like, where did that word come from? So the story you ended up telling yourself was if I enjoy something, then it's bad for me. I will suffer for eternity for liking something.
And I won't learn if it's easy.
Woo!
Oh yeah.
So,
So it's got to be hard. I can tell you one more. When I was working with a guy named Chuck, he's an NFL player and used NLP to coach his teammates. He was working on me, and he mentioned about. Um, oh wow, I just blanked out. What were you just saying? Oh my gosh.
NFL player.
Yeah, NFL player Chucky with his team. What did he say before that?
I think you said talk with his team member. He was doing work on you. You were doing work on him.
Before that.
You
Dang.
said, I'm going to tell you one more. That's all.
That's all I can't remember before that. Oh,
I think we
oh,
might have hail.
you have hail at your house?
Yeah, I think I'm
Oh my
hearing hail.
gosh.
Let me just check the weather real quick, everybody.
Sure.
Um, I think we're fine. Oh, tornado watch. I mean, it's not a big deal. All right, I'm gonna keep looking down here and there because we do have hail, and then we'll have cows. Anybody, any Twister fans? Like, we have cows. Um,
So let's see. We had the kid, my story, of what happened, the stories we tell ourselves, the incision that you mentioned,
I
the
think you said
oh,
one
and
more.
that it was oh, that it's hard, I think it was that everything
Yes.
oh, and then can't be, oh yes. I remember I was talking with him and I said, "Yeah, man, it's just like being a sword in the stone with and being thrown in the fireplace. I need to be thrown in there so my impurities can be taken out and folded and beaten out so I can be more stronger and flexible like a sword." Sounds a little nice, but it's kind of dark in a little bit. He was like, "Dang, bro, I don't know if you should keep that one. That's a lot of effort you're telling your unconscious mind. You're literally telling it to make everything bad and hard. You actually need to look for that versus actually looking at for things that are easy, fun, effortless, smooth." People go, oh, well, that's not there. Yeah, but how often have you told it to look for it? I bet not that often. How much have you said? How much you worked on, what you want to see, hear, feel, or say to yourself? I guarantee it ain't that much compared to what you were complain about. And then you wonder why it's all we think about.
I have another one. You know how there's a lot of women and men that do the whole, I've invested this much time, energy, effort, money into this relationship that's abusive, bad, not going anywhere, stagnant, but they will stay with somebody because they've put some time in. And it's like, choose your hard. Okay. And that goes for obesity, sickness, choose your hard. Do you want to go? I'm just gonna be really honest. Okay. I started walking 3.2 miles every couple of days. And it's not difficult for me, but like I had to realize I'm getting older. You don't age backwards. I'm not Benjamin Button. So like I need to get on top of this because I want to age well, and I don't get Botox, I don't get surgeries. I did put some liner on today. Like, wow. But I don't do those things. So I have to make a decision. Do I want to put the work in now or just look like shit? I don't want to look like shit. Like nobody wakes up and is like, God, I hope I get uglier every moment of my life. Like nobody says that. Right, Lance?
I just love it. I'm just loving joining you because
So
it's hilarious. It's true. It's
I
true. It's
had
so
to
good.
tell myself though while I'm walking, I'm like, choose your hard. Choose your hard because there's days where it's, 80 something degrees and the sun's beating down and there's no wind. And I'm like, I don't want to do this again. And I'm like, yeah, you do. Because you're going to choose your hard. Like your body's getting firmer. Your skin is still firm. I had some woman tell me, oh, the minute you turn 40, your skin turns crepe. For you, honey, I'm not agreeing to that. But
Mm.
we make an agreement, and you did too. When they said it's got to be hard, you're going to go to hell. You agreed. You're like, oh, yeah.
Even with that, right? Choose your hard. Like, oh, well, it's got to be hard. Even that's a very masculine thing. Oh, yeah, it's got to choose your hard. Yes, and it's fun to talk. And there's some truth in a way to it. Kind of like though with the sword, there's some truth to it. And yes, I'm not going to sit here and say things are easy and sunshine and rainbows because shit, man, life can kick you in the nuts straight up. So I think it's about more like how you're going to get up and handle after getting kicked in the nuts a few times, right? And that's what builds the tenacity. So there's some truth there. And if we go around saying life's hard, life's hard, life's hard, but then we're wondering why it's not enjoyable, well, you have that too. So there's definitely a mix in the cake, if you will, of going, okay, I want to look for things that I enjoy, that make me excited and happy, that make me passionate, that align with my values, that actually create excitement for me. I was listening to a mentor of mine talk about, hey, not everyone's meant to start a company. Maybe you're supposed to be super creative, sell your shit for a lot of money, give to some dude that's Mr. Investor Pants who's going to be better than you anyway, right? And so finding out what you're naturally gifted at and things like that, which actually I feel like doing a little spill here. This is one reason why I love what the work I'm doing, what's morphing into is I'm creating teams where I take like 3, 4 months with people through my teams of like, hey, let's look at your birth chart and when you were born and other things in your family line or what you're naturally gifted at as along with right releasing these old beliefs and stuff that way we can really create who you really are meant to become here and not falsating it. I'm actually even working myself. Right now, I'm going to a new brain retraining thing I'm very excited about to learn with my new even to increase my focus or audio processing or memory recall and stuff, because I'm more in the mental and emotional belief change world. And I'm going to strengthen this as well, because like you said too, I'm not getting younger. So right now is actually, they're even saying 35, 40 range is like the perfect time to really, obviously younger is even better, but to really before it starts, maybe even possibly, man, if you can pump this up now, man, you're good to go.
And you know what, Lance? This comes after when I was a child, they would say, if you haven't learned this by such and such an age, you can't improve this. But see, I've always disagreed with stuff like that. If you want to improve something about yourself, you can. You just have to show up for yourself and you just have to do the work, right? Like, don't sleep on it. And it's hard sometimes. And you made a good point. Choose your hard. But when I say choose your hard, you get out and you do some workouts, or you get obese and don't want to move and you can't breathe and you can't make it up the steps and you can't work a job and you believe you're disabled. Like, I'm not making fun of that. I want the audience to understand I'm not making fun of that. But like, that's hard. It's
Yes.
hard to be addicted to food and know that, like, I
Hey,
made
you know what? It's hard. It's hard if you can't tie your dang shoes because your belly's so big, man. That's hard.
right. And again, this isn't hate. It's just a reality. I don't want to get to a point where I can't come back. So, 3.2 miles every couple of days. Could I do it more? Sure. Am I going to? Probably not, because that seems pretty feasible. I go drive there, do my walk, get home. So I wanted to share something. This is so random. And this is me and Lance's conversation. So it's perfect, right? I made a potato leek soup today. And at first, like, you read through a recipe and you're just like, yeah, I want potato leek soup and I don't know where to go get it. I have to make it. I got the ingredients, these beautiful organic tomato or potatoes and leeks and the broth and the seasonings I already had, because I have a problem. My family, the family I come from, didn't season anything when I was growing up, so I'm like the seasoning queen. I throw everything in there. I'm like smoked paprika, truffle salt, like I go all in. And that's not the entirety of it. That was the soup today with some nutmeg and whatever. But anyhow, I'm cutting this stuff up and I felt kind of annoyed because I'm like, man, so much going into this. And I'm like cubing the potatoes and then I've got to blend it at the end and you got to do all these things and I'm adding the parsley afterwards. It was the best soup in the world because I got to add all the seasonings I like. Like when you go to a restaurant, you get what they are comfortable serving to most people, which is for least complaints, right? They don't want it coming back to the kitchen. So it's, season it yourself at the table, add some salt and pepper. This was rich, okay? Because you add a little bit of cream at the top, the parsley. But I remember thinking, I tried to convince myself not to do this today because it's a lot of work and I have the podcast coming up and I have these other things. And the story I told myself was this recipe is going to be hard. First of all, it wasn't hard after I cut everything up and, did it all. It was literally maybe 20 minutes of prep, let it boil, let it for maybe another 30 minutes, and then I enjoyed it. The stories we tell ourselves get in our way. Because if I would have listened to that story, it was going to be hard. I wouldn't have had that soup today. That soup was amazing. I eat once a day. So, like, having something that delicious and healthy because it was all organic, it was all right there. And I know exactly what was in my food because I made it. There's no chemicals in my food, you know? So, when it comes to the stories we tell ourselves, I want to share one, Lance, while you were being very vulnerable, and thank you for that. I thought about a big one as well. So, relationships, we kind of touched on that, the stories we tell ourselves about our bodies. But then also, I was a teen mom, and you've met my daughter. She's 24, she's gorgeous. And I will not sit here and try to claim like I was the perfect mom or I did everything right. I was a baby. Okay. Like I was a baby having a baby. I had no idea what I was doing. I told myself I don't deserve a good man or to be in a good relationship because I'm damaged goods, which is coming from that kind of Pentecostal background, right? Like you had a baby out of wedlock, you're damaged. And for a very long time, I think my relationships and stuff were a reflection of that belief, that story I was telling myself. Oh, you deserve how he's treating you, or you deserve to be unhappy because you made this mistake 15 years ago. Like, that's crazy, guys. But I kept choosing less for myself because I convinced myself I didn't deserve better or more because this thing that happened, which is a beautiful thing, like a baby, right? My daughter, she's my first love. Like she taught me what love truly was because there's this little person that needs you and you have to show up for them no matter what. And, that's what got me into the workforce at 16 years old. I went back 2 weeks after having her and I thought, I just got to work so hard. I got to prove that I didn't screw everything up, but I kept screwing everything up because like I told myself a story. And Lance told himself a story. And Lance, we're going to have to talk a little bit about that later, but because what I want to talk about pertains to, you know, what we've been talking about. Yeah, we have inside stuff. That's how it works sometimes, guys. But I, it clicked for me. It clicked for me. So I'll share that with you later. But more stories people tell themselves, Lance, you get to see all the stories. So, like, don't give anybody away. But we've talked about body, relationships, life choices. What else? What else do people tell themselves, Lance?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
story.
Well, I think about what I call like the greater problems. When I'm helping people do a 1 hour or 3 hour breakthrough, no matter what, I'm trying to figure out what's the problem of the day, right? What's the issue or the main highlight? Because that shifts, like, I've had people, right, the next week, completely different things because now that thing solves. So now it's a completely different, topic or bucket. So going through those, I remember one guy that he had to go to jail for a small amount of time. It was a very small thing, but because of that, he's a felon. Therefore, no one will hire him and he'll never be successful. I heard of one something about Dr. Matt's client mentioning about he shared a story about this lady who was a multi-millionaire and mentioned, like, well, it's a man's world, so I won't get it. Even though she was very well off, she couldn't, really go there because it's a man's world. Right? So like pop that. All of a sudden she was doing really, really well. One of mine, one of the ladies that talked about tripling her business that I worked with, after we worked with her team, her and her let's see. Oh yes, I'm a bad mom if I get busier. Love that one. See that and that held her back from tripling her business, guys. Like what one belief. That's why I don't think a lot of times people were fully understanding what we are able to do here and why I got in love with this work so much because that one story we tell ourselves kept her from millions of dollars. And we changed that and just said, how would you get some help? And yeah, maybe you are, but see, you didn't even look past it. She didn't even see the thing for help because you're so used to busting ass. She's like, help? What do you mean? I'm like, you're doing good, so hire help. Like, I know it sounds silly sometimes, but when we're in it, it's like, oh yeah, because we're just done the doing. I don't know. One of my coaches told me, Lance, you're doo-dooing all over the place. You wonder why it looks like shit. Gotta be more being. It's about being. You want to become.
I like
Yeah,
that.
so many stories, lots of, yeah, not enough. I liked one that was really interesting, out of control. And this was a great learning for me because I'm not safe in my body. That was one really good one. I have worked on that one myself, for sure. Feeling so emotional sometimes as a man, not feeling safe in the system that I'm even in. Um,
So, wait, not to like bust in on you, but is that a story we tell ourselves too? Like, for instance, little boys don't cry. Why are we trying to train future generations to be void of their inner feelings and that their inner feelings are bad? You know what I mean? Like,
Well, again,
or
it's their way to toughen them up, right? They're trying to do, again, usually it's their way. I love that face. Usually it's their way of, right, having to harden them or toughen up the boy, right? Because, hey, life's hard. And think about the Great Depression that that really kind of trained our parents, so you
yeah.
save the shoelace and you got to be tough and that's the issue, is that they overdo it. Well, you can't cry. You got to just stuff it. You might get fired. But then what the heck happens? People are blowing up in other ways in other areas because they're not properly taught how to manage anything mentally, emotionally. We teach all the math and everything else, but we don't talk about oh man, I'll get on a stool, a soapbox, man, on like they didn't even talk about mental emotional regulation. I mean, or how to, when parents are screaming at each other, what to do as a young kid and like how to handle it, or those sorts of things. And if you do, it's a little, it should be much more. I think I'm very excited to see much more of a swing of this being more talked about. Even the Olympics, they've talked about, hey, this pushed me too much. I'm over, anxietied and over emotional about this, or my head's not in the right place. This is hurting my system too much. I'm aware of that now versus we're just gonna push through because we're tough and no wonder you're not connected to your wife and your kids, man. You're not even emotionally connected to yourself. You don't even know what you want. How are you supposed to teach them what they want?
Whoa. I feel like you just took out the punching bag and like you, that was good. Another one came to me while you were talking. Poverty. People tell themselves it's just how it's always been. I'm not smart enough. Look, I'm gonna tell you a little seeky. I read the stories of great entrepreneurs, great scientists. I read the memoirs, the autobiographies, the biographies. I got to tell you, a lot of them struggled. They thought they weren't smart enough. They weren't educated enough. They didn't do this. They left high school to go get a job and they ended up being the biggest names out there. You can go read your own books and figure out who I'm talking about. But I'm telling you, we have this focus on, I remember my favorite one. When I was in high school, they said if you don't have a college degree, you'll never get a job. Like you're going to need a college degree to be a manager at McDonald's, which, by the way, McDonald's has Hamburger University. It's not a joke. Google it. I'm not joking. So they actually train their own managers, and their own managers can actually get a Bachelor of Business working with them. Maybe that's changed. Please don't quote me on that because you know what? I didn't fact check that. I just remember when I worked for them when I was like 16 to 18. So there, it's funny when we say things like this, right? Like you have to have a degree to go anywhere, even with McDonald's. McDonald's will help you. And other companies want to see you do well. So they have their own managerial trainings because they have the way they want things. But we all bought the lie and got ourselves in debt, right? Like student loans and stuff like that. And I'm going to tell you a little secret too. Nobody's ever asked me for my degree. Not one time. I've earned it. I have it. I have two, but it doesn't matter. Nobody cares. Like in the real world, unless you're a scientist or a doctor, which then you get licensing. So you could have licensing, insurance agents have licensing, right? Like there's all these things that they, they, their stories they tell us that we buy into and say, I agree to that. Okay, I'm in. You got me. And we agree to all these stories that aren't real life. Um, Einstein, or was it Edison? Doesn't matter. Both of them had learning disabilities, the most brilliant people you've ever met, right? Einstein, I believe, I might be getting them mixed up. I don't remember, but it was both of them. Einstein didn't talk until he was like 8, and everybody was like, "He's stupid. He's just dumb." No. Edison, I believe this one is the story where the school was just like, your son can't read, he's really dumb. And the mom said, we're not gonna talk about my child that way. She went straight mama with a flip flop in her hand and was like, I'm gonna take my kid home. I'm gonna teach him. And she would tell him how brilliant he was every day, which is exactly what you should do with your children. Okay, you should tell them how wonderful they are. And he ended up saying one of his quotes that's attributed to him. Again, I can't personally verify it, but they said to him, how you failed 10,000 times before you came up with the light bulb. And he goes, I didn't fail 10,000 times. I found 10,000 or 9,999 ways that didn't work, right? What a great way to think about it. This just didn't work. Lance did that, and we talked about it in Burn the Ships. with modalities, healing modalities, because Lance was like, I need to fix this in myself. He was motivated to figure out what would work for him. And it happened to be NLP and Huna. And he chased these things. Lance, I remember you chasing these things. You were getting the certifications, going on the trips, And I think that's the most important thing is the story we need to be telling ourselves is the truth. Okay, this didn't work. So Lance pivoted and he went to something new. And that didn't work. How many modalities did you run through? I mean, you ran through them.
I stopped counting after 35 because I don't know. I was like, no one's probably gonna believe this anyway, and that's a big number. But it was everything from I like to rattle it off at times. So see, Tantra, Reiki, inner healing, like energy clearing, you kind of like depossession, chakra clearing, NLP, Huna, hypnotherapy, past life regression, room retrieval, Holy Spirit clearing, fire tunnel, naturopathic, alphabiotics, acupuncture. Like mantra, chanting, sound healing, using your voice as sound healing, chakra, yoga, whatever, man. Like it, shit, a bunch of stuff, and all these coaches and people, therapists, counselors, life coaches, whatever. I was just always looking for I just always felt like something was wrong. But and it's funny, like I always one of the stories I told myself, "What's wrong with you now, Lance?" Oh, something else is wrong with you, of course. What's the problem of the day you have, Lance? Because you're something's always wrong. And in a way, it I think kept me going to always look for more. But it also wasn't the healthiest, like always trying to, find the problem. Even I will be honest, the last few years, specifically, I will say in the last 6 months, I hired a new guy who coaches billionaires that was talking to me about like, Lance, like I think you're getting stuck in the what's the problem, even still for yourself, because I was trying to figure out why isn't this like I see this vision of this company and event centers and such a big vision. Like, why am I still at where I'm at? I see these huge visions and, just being okay with that, as well. And seeing a little bit more in the desire of what I'm desiring personally, what really lights me up. And I found out, wow, I'm still going to a whole bunch of networking events because I think it's the thing I'm supposed to do because it's the story I'm telling myself because it's what I knew in the past that worked. So I was just trying to do it again, like, man, I mean, it's okay. I've got some great connections, but I've also had some like stories where, man, I don't want to go back there or man, I'm done with that. Or like, man, these people are just starting business. And I've been running three for, 20 years. I mean, so it's just a different caliber of person and, trying to, especially when you're moving and, a brand new area. But again, I can't get stuck with the story. I tell myself, I have people saying, oh, well, just the economy, Lance. It's just the blah, blah, blah. No, man. I've gone through three or four marketing companies, a few magazines. It's taught me exactly who to look for. And I just hired the dude, and it's looking like he's doing exactly what I want him to do, which is much more tailored and much more involved, I'll say. Which is like when he eats, I eat. We'll say it like that, which is much different than we're just going to pay you 1,000 months to, because we think this is what you should do. But hey, no, we're a
Yeah.
part of the company with you.
Well, and you hit on it like right before I was going to ask it. I think in our culture where the story we're told is there's something wrong with you if it's and I remember there was this preacher, this was the day I was never going back to his church. I knew immediately. He was like, well, if you were doing everything right in the Bible, then you'd be rich. And I'm sitting there like, I don't think y'all have read the Bible. Like, there's really good people that, like for instance, the prophet Elijah, he went up against Ahab and Jezebel, right? Elijah wasn't less than Ahab and Jezebel, but they had the money. And here's the thing. It doesn't mean you're good or bad if you have money. It's about getting on it, you know? Somebody that's willing to put in 100 hours a week is going to make more than somebody that only wants to work 20 hours a week. And that's okay. And there's a difference between working an hourly wage job and building a system that people buy, or an exit strategy from a tech company is going to pay differently than a retail store selling a retail store. So it's really just about like stop comparing yourself to everybody, right, Lance? Like when you're playing the comparison trap game, you're always going to find somebody that looks way cooler than you, prettier than you, handsomer than you, more intelligent than you, makes more money than you.
And I'll give you one that my folks say they still laugh about and use to this day. I was apparently like 16 years old or something, and my mom was talking about like she wanted to lose some weight, and I said, well, mom, it's funny thing about comparing is, at the end of the day, it's only the fattest person in the world and the skinniest person in the world, and we're all somewhere in between.
Which your mom is not on the higher
No.
end of the
No,
spectrum.
no, no. She's
So
just
like,
medium. Yeah, no, she's medium. Just want
yeah,
to lose a little, a few pounds or whatever. And I don't know. I just said that to her, and she just said because she was kind of beating herself up, and she said she always came back to like, wait, I'm just somewhere in the middle in some ever going whatever. Like it's again, it's her relationship with herself. Like it's not out there. Are you big or not or whatever? It's like
right.
no, no, like it's just with who
But
you are.
that's another story society tells us, right? Like here is the ideal body shape, the ideal looks. And if you don't fit that, then you agree to those terms like, okay, yes, this person is the epitome of beauty. Let's just go with the David statue from Michelangelo for men because it's safe, it's not a real person, we're not comparing a real thing. But the David, which you guys would just say David, right? By Michelangelo was the standard of beauty back then. I mean, they literally chiseled this dude's body into marble, which is not easy work. Go chisel some marble and then come back and tell me, how easy it was to extract a perfectly chiseled body out of marble. No, sir. Um,
I just went and saw the
so
Washington Monument recently, actually, and it was like the whole thing in marble. I was like, this is, I mean, perfectly round curves with, how do you do that with rock and metal? That is just, it is amazing.
it is incredible. But if you looked at that statue as if I don't look exactly like that, I'm not good enough. And that was your measurement for yourself. We do that with real people, but like I'm just trying to make an analogy here. You're always going to feel bad. And it's life is just too dang short to be living like that, right? Lance, over to Lance for a minute. I need water.
Oh, well, I mean, yeah, at the end of the day, it's like, if we're always going out there, it's always out there. At the end of the day, one of my favorite things, are you a cause or effect? Because then if you think of it that way, it's like, oh, if I'm at cause, that means I can say, hey, I'm at cause. I can decide and choose. Maybe you were born into the environment. You're saying, well, I didn't create this. Okay, but it's still be a cause of this happened to me. What am I going to be a cause about? What can I change? Versus the effect. Well, it's
Ooh.
out there and everything's better and oh, it's hard and well, they just had it easy. Well, that's also an easy yes. That's an easy thing to do. That's a safe option. But it's also in a way unsafe because you're just staying where you're at.
Do you know something that came to me the other day? I feel we did not plan for this, guys. We are ad-libbing the whole thing. I literally started telling myself, I'm the cause. I'm the cause. Good or bad, I'm the cause. Because it's the difference of like there's people that literally believe they're the victim all the time and they're part of the problem. Okay? If you stay in an abusive relationship as someone who did it for a minute, okay, speaking to the choir, you are part of the problem. Can you explain? Shut up.
What's really weird is that this has been in my storage unit for 6, 7 months, and I just got it out today.
We have had some crazy synchronicities lately.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. This was my like when I finished Huna. This was my Aloha hat when I bought and finished Huna years ago and became a teacher of the. You'll be able to teach it, and then at the back, we always talked about being a cause. And when I made this and had a custom done, I was like, I'm a cause for my life.
Yeah. And it's Jocko, I don't remember his last name, but he wrote Extreme Responsibility. That book is so good because he says if you take responsibility for whatever's happening to you, even if it's not your fault, you get to be the one to change, like you get to be the one to make the changes that change the outcome. So for instance, if somebody's punching you in the face and you're like, I'm not punching myself in the face, why are you still there? Why are you allowing them to continue punching you in the face? Get the hell out of there. What? But people do it, but they do it in other situations. Well, I go to these family functions, but my uncle, he does these things to me that are bad.
Yeah, but I got to be there for the family.
No, you don't. And I mean, like, if I told you the stuff I've seen, it's shocking. I will literally jaw drop on people because why would you put up with that? And I mean, okay. Hmm. For instance, I was taking care of my dad while he was going through chemo for stage four, um, two stage four cancers, bone and prostate. So at the beginning of his journey in 2019, not the end, I took care of him then too. But at the beginning of his journey, they were doing chemo. And after the first session, maybe there were two sessions, there wasn't a third. He was supposed to be going back for another session, and he was so weak. There's no way he would have made it. None. Like I can show you the pictures. 3 months apart, he aged 30 something years. He looked like he was in his 80s, hair all fell out. He sunk in. And I was sitting there and he has to go for this treatment on a Monday. This is a Sunday. Okay? Like I literally waited till the end. And I realized I can't do this. I cannot be complicit in his, like them taking his life because his body can't take anymore. So I literally packed up my stuff because I was staying with my parents to make sure that I was available for my dad at all times because that they needed me. And I said, I can't do this. You're gonna have to hire a nurse. I'm out. I can't be a part of this. And I bawled my eyes out driving out the driveway because my dad cried and was like, I need you. And I mean, like, rip my heart out and stomp on it in front of me. I love my dad. I love my mom. And she was just like, I don't have time to hire a nurse by tomorrow. Like, what are you doing? And I was just like, look, he's not going to make it. And I can't have that on my conscience. So they didn't go. He ended up living 4 more years, which with stage four prostate and bone cancer, like his bones were literally disintegrating inside of his body. Um, that's phenomenal. Okay. But I had to stand up and be like, I just can't. And I felt like the worst daughter in the world, Lance. That was the story I was telling myself. Like, what type of daughter walks out on her dad during chemo treatments, during the worst time of his life? I'm gonna tell you, the type that wants to see him live, and he got 4 more years because I was willing to walk out and be the devil to everybody because I knew that was gonna be the story. Like, you're the worst child in the world. And I was like, okay, I'll wear it. I can't do this. And that happened multiple times in my life where I was the only person willing and able to stand up. And it was humiliating at times. And people told their own stories about me that I ended up hearing. And I was horrified because, like, wow, that's the perception. But when you commit, oh, Lance, you're going to love this. When you commit, you have to keep walking forward into the shit show because that's what it is. And I think we tell ourselves stories, Lance, so we don't have to walk into the shit show. Because if I can
Hmm.
give myself the out, well, everybody's wearing a mask for COVID. I didn't, not one time. Not even in the hospital. I did go into hospitals more than one time, not just for myself. I needed stitches. I dropped my dad off at one point and told them what they were going to do and not do. And they listened. You know why? Because I had the balls to do it. There's been so many times I've seen Lance stand up for stuff, walk out, stand up to the people in charge of something because they were wrong. We just talked about it last night. I'm not going to give any more, like just in case your people watch, but like he stood up to people that, you know, most people just kind of don't make them mad because they could say this to me about, or they could
Yeah,
say this
don't just
about
don't
me to
disrupt
other
the
people.
boss. Something could happen, right? Or that's uncomfortable or whatever. I was even thinking what you were saying came to my mind is actually all my dancing background. So those who don't know, I'm sure you've talked about, it, but I've had about 15 years of dancing plus maybe longer now. But guess what was the story I told myself, Amy?
But
I'm white. I can't dance. Did I ever tell you this was the root of the story?
no.
Oh man, I was so no one danced in my family. I love sports, martial arts and things. And I remember some of my I call my darker brothers were helping me out of like how to dance with a woman. They're like, "Hey man, we're going to this prom thing," and I was like, "Man, I want to do this." And everybody's like, "Oh man, you gotta like yeah, what do I say? Give her room to dance on you." With one hand on the hip and just kind of, I kind of moving with her or whatever. And I was nervous, wasn't sure what to do. And I was like, yeah, man, but I can't dance. I'm white. And he goes on a phrase I'll never forget. And he said, have you ever practiced? I said, no. And he goes, then how can you even say that? How do you even know? I was like, oh, well, I thought I couldn't because the color of my skin for some reason. It's like, dude,
Isn't
you
that
never practiced, you never tried. He goes, why don't you come over to the house and we'll watch some, YouTube videos when YouTube was like just coming out, some like Chris Brown, Usher, Michael Jackson, Neo,
you do the moonwalk?
Jason Drew. I can, not the best, but definitely can, right? All these cool things, and I mean the first thing I learned was just right how to do a wave, through the body there. I've been doing this since I was gosh, probably 16, 17, being able to, doing different waves and stuff and practicing things. And then before you knew it, oh gosh, I don't know, I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't, wait, what was that? Oh, wait a minute. Then all of a sudden, you can do all these silly things because you practice the repertoire. You've done the triple step as in West Coast swing, right? You've drilled it in. And so I remember, I'll say this too, stories we tell ourselves in different ways of like brilliance. Did I tell you about the guy? Did I tell you when I was teaching at a mall?
Uh-uh.
Yeah, I don't think so. So this was because if I say it, it kind of ruins the punchline. So I was part of a country dancing group, competing country dancing bars across Dallas Fort Worth area, and I actually won 2014, 2016 at Cowboys Red River, which is a huge
Nice.
dance hall. Yeah, it was like 60 people. Still have the trophy belt buckle, which is pretty cool. And so during that time, during college, this local lady that had a ballroom studio was like, "Hey, we got a lot of requests for like, country bar dancing and like, social dancing. We've heard you guys are pretty good." And we were the local, tricksters or whatever. And we're like, "Yeah." So I came out and we did some teaching, helped him out. And she comes up to me and she goes, think you know what you're doing. I go, yeah, yeah, I've done this quite a bit. She goes, you look pretty good too, like just in movement. I can tell you, you've done this a lot. I was like, yeah, thanks. And she just goes, do you know what a foxtrot? I was like, I don't know. She goes, it's kind of like waltz. I was like, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. She's like, yeah. I was like, sure. We start going, and about the end of the song, she tells me I'm doing it. I still felt like it was a waltz. So she's like, oh no, that was it. We just bumped, very, very ballroom. And I have this guy come up to me, Amy. And oh, so I haven't told you this is great. So watch this. This is pretty cool. Guy comes up to me, hey man, hey you, come here. Come, I need to talk to you for a minute. I need to talk to you for a minute. I'm an older gentleman. I was like, oh shit. I was like, yes, sir. You okay? He's like, yeah, yeah. I just must have misunderstood, obviously. But she said, I heard you say you've never done foxtrot. I mean, obviously, you've done foxtrot. I was like, no, never done that dance. He's like, but you were doing it. I was like, oh, really? I honestly didn't even know. We're kind of staring at each other, and he goes, really? I was like, yeah, dude, it's not rocket scientist. He goes, I beg to differ. I am a rocket scientist. And let me tell you that I have been studying with my wife, having to freaking drill these like sets down and memorize them, and you just do it. Unbelievable.
Aw.
It showed me that day like there's different intelligences in the world. That was easy for
Big
me.
time. And I want to address that because that is such a big topic. We could do a whole session on this, right? Um, Different intelligences, EQ versus IQ, your emotional quotient versus your intelligence quotient. I'm gonna tell you something. You can be like really high on the IQ. If you don't have any EQ, you can't read a room when you walk into it. You can't tell that you're pissing people off. Look, I'm bad at that sometimes. Like people just don't like me and I'm cool with it. I've made peace with that though. Because when you walk into a room and you're like in your power, people want to tear you down. They will always go after, they want to bring people to this like average, right? Um, but it's not just about that. It's not just EQ, IQ. There's spatial learning. There's people that learn by moving. So you see me rock sometimes and I'm listening, I'm paying attention. My body just needs to move. There's this energy that I rock and I'm aware of it, but I don't stop it because like it's okay. It's not hurting anybody. Um, some
Think about
kids
people who
learn
like
by
to like doodle,
listening.
doodle and like draw. I remember when coming in class, like you're not paying attention, and then found out this person was like, no, this helps me to pay attention actually, because I'm
Mhm.
doing something, then I can listen versus staring at your whatever ass and just meh, meh,
Yeah.
meh, meh, meh.
But even the way people learn is different. And I think, we'll have to do a whole session on this. I read the John Taylor Gatto books. If you don't, you should, about what schooling really is. And it's actually just dumbing everybody down. So that's why when people are like, well, the school said I have a learning disability, I'm like, yeah, but did you really? Because they get paid more for people that they can label. Why are they labeling humans? Okay. Because I don't care if you can read at a college level. I care that you have empathy and compassion and you're not out here being Jeffrey Dahmer. All right. You can be a productive part of society without knowing physics. Physics is fun. I love physics. I love quantum physics. But guess what? I've met people that are like, that doesn't make any sense to me. And I'm like, oh my God, I feel like it's in everything, Like I love it so much. I got Fibonacci put into a tattoo, designed it. I don't know. So there's Fibonacci designed into my justice tattoo because I love Fibonacci, you know? So the golden ratio. Um, Everybody's different. And the stories we tell ourselves are to normalize certain behaviors or make it so we feel socially acceptable or keep us down. We keep ourselves down. You can't blame anybody else. It's not your grandma's fault that she didn't like you when you were a kid. Gives a shit about grandma. We have grandma quotes coming out of our wazoo. Okay. Um, you get to create your whole life. And I think it's interesting. I look at the people that go to different jobs. Like there are people that choose to go sit in call centers and they're happy. Like good. There are people that love working in factories. Like they will go from one factory job to another because that's what they're comfortable with. That's what they want to do. I am not here to attack any of that. Me personally, I'd probably lose all my fingers. I would have no fingers because I wouldn't be able to focus in a factory. But I can respect that we're all so different and it's beautiful. So like let's stop telling ourselves stories that keep us down, keep us whatever that looks like to you, your definition of that, right? I don't want to give anybody a definition. That's what I'm like. I don't want to say anything concrete because I don't want somebody to be like, oh, she said that. So that's what I got to work on. No, being the best version of yourself, you're only competing with yourself. Being the best version of you, the healedest version of you every day. And that's going to be messy some days because stuff's going to come up and you're going to be like, dang, I haven't done any work. No, you have. That's part of it. So just supporting people as they get better. That's what this whole podcast is about. It's about confronting the bullshit that's run our lives. I'm done.
Real quick, I feel like saying I had a had I'll say I had someone once in my life had this happen where I was helping them let go of something, and they call me like a week later and they're like, Lance, I'm worse off. I'm like, oh no, like really? I'm like, oh yeah, it's worse than it ever was. Worse than before, I was like, oh man, do I need to like what do I need to do here, blah 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 blah. I'm sitting there, man, I'm really racking my head on like what to do, what to do. And the story we tell ourselves was I was believing her in that moment, that she was correct. And then I stopped and went, what if I don't believe that story that she's telling herself? And I went, what do you mean it's worse? And she tells me something, and I go, oh, you mean in the homework that you said you let go of this person because they're a soul-sucking vampire and that you need to let them go, and now they're gone. So it's weird because you're not used to the space. They're like, oh, yeah. So even with that, right? She actually got what she wanted. She forgot.
And it's not even about forgot. It's she felt the lone. So the soul sucking vampire's gone. She felt the loneliness of the person that was in her space constantly and taking and taking and taking and taking. She no longer had that time and space filled up with that person. So she was just like, oh my God, I'm alone now. I don't know what to do with alone. I've never been alone. This person has taken, weren't they friends for like 20 years or something crazy? Like,
Yeah, that
it was a
one.
long time. And we all have people like that.
So yeah, it's like, it's time to go, and it's been time to go for a long time. And then what's funny too is, we helped to release it. All of a sudden, she couldn't stand the person. But then she's like, oh, well, I'm really sad because of blah, blah, blah. But see, I'm glad I didn't, because when I talked it out with her, I go, well, why'd you say this? She goes, oh, well, I thought I was sad again. And I was like, my job's not to make you happy. My job's to help create clarity on what you actually desire and then make the decision or see yourself, whatever that is that you want to make, right? Because my job is to say, hey, what do you desire here? What feels right for you? What's the problem or the issue that you need to take care of but aren't able to move on from it? Well, usually there's what we call a secondary gain, where, hey, well, the system's believing this, and I'm going to get more benefit with the devil I do versus the devil I don't.
Mm. Do you know this is a total like side trip down the side road that's not marked. But I remember the day I got divorced, like leading up to the divorce, I was like, oh yeah, like I'm gonna be free. This is gonna be great. And it was such a weird feeling because after I left the courthouse, I couldn't explain it to you. Like people were calling me, they're like, hey, congratulations. I'm like, I don't miss the person, but what just happened? Now listen, it had to end, you know, but at the same time, this feeling I was expecting didn't show up for months, almost a year, because, I wasn't even mourning the relationship that had been done. It was more just this, I still could not tell you what it was. It was just that I expected to be like way up here and so happy and so excited and party. And it did not come out that way. So I could, like if you would have asked me then when I was getting the divorce, like, oh, well, did you make the right decision? I would have still been able to say, yes, I made the right decision. So getting rid of the wrong person, right decision. But there's a lot of emptiness. And you have to like sit in that void that relationship, no matter what it was, husband, friend, family member, coworker, whatever, you have to fill that void until you're comfortable in that place where that person took a lot of your time and space. And again, these are the stories we tell ourselves. So this I feel like this has been really good.
Yeah, and I actually felt like going to end with this too. So coming back to the story we tell ourselves, I thought the audience would be interested, like, oh, well, where are you at now with this lady that, told this story? And I actually had a moment where I had someone actually I was living with here in Colorado kind of hellfire and brimstone me, and it, re-triggered a little bit of some stuff, and I was tearing up, and I actually called my dad, believe it or not. It was just like, hey man, I'm getting stuck here. Like I'm calling some help, a lifeline here. I'm not shaking this for some reason. And what he had me do is say, Lance, you know how to do this work, man. Like he's learning it himself. He's like, what do I need to, how do I do it? And I was like, help me just let this go. Read this script for me and just let me get in my own thing here. And I feel like this would be really cool to end with, which is He helped me go back to that memory. And I was sitting there and I went back to the me coloring, right? Going back to the church thing. And I saw God, Jesus kind of come next to me, and he looked over that lady and he looked at me and he said, all he said was something like, I saw him kind of push her away a little bit, like very gently, and then some kind of joke about like, Lance, she doesn't like to color like we do. We'll color, we'll have fun, and again, being able to change that belief in the decisions we tell ourselves, like that's really the magic too, why I love this work so much, because we're not adding, we're going to go back to original memories and deciding and clearing and updating.
Yeah, I love it. And um, so real quick, we like to give little spoilers to our audience that they're not expecting. Lance isn't expecting this, but a little birdie told me that you are working on a book.
Yes, there is some chapters already underway.
Amazing. So will you bring that to the Rebel Mike podcast when you're ready, when you're in a place where you want to release that and we can let our audience know?
Yeah, we'll even be able to go through maybe some of the pieces together and talk about it.
That would be really awesome. We'll have to wait till we have like copy in hand. So you'll have to let us know when you're getting there. But I'm so proud of you. You've come so far. You've done so much in the time that I've known you. And like we are still gunning for our show, Breakthrough Breakups. And you should 100% contact me because I have all the paperwork on it. It's brilliant. I literally cannot believe producers are sleeping on this. Like, I just blows my mind. How can you not have vision for, maybe it's not smutty enough. Like, they can run around in bathing suits. I don't care.
No, man, but it's just supposed to be ours, I think. We're supposed to own it and run it all ourselves and not need any other help, is what I think. I think God's just going to put it in our laps in a special way. It's just, it's kind of like dating. It's just, nope, not the right one, right? There's another one coming around that's, you know,
Such a good point. But it's hard when you house all this really important stuff. And you said something funny yesterday that I've heard from like my best friend of 20 years says this to me. She's like, "Girl, if I didn't know you, I wouldn't believe you do all the shit you do, but like I have literally been there, watched it." And Lance kind of said the same thing. And I didn't say anything to you at the time because I was just like, wow, I've heard that so much, but I'm very protective of the people in my life. Like I don't, my value isn't in who I know because I know some people, and I might invite one of them on the show. But the point is like, my value has never been in that. I was raised, this is crazy too, by two people who just let me be, even though I was the wild child and I was voted class clown and teacher's pet. I mean, do the math. That doesn't happen, you know? So I'm excited to see where this all goes. I think this podcast is just gold. And like we'll have conversations and he'll be going, podcast, save it. So we'll be having more conversations, just Lance and I. I know the NLP work is so exciting and it's interesting and it's very beneficial to the people that utilize that as a segment of our show. You can email the Rebel Mike podcast at gmail.com. Just keep it simple for you. There's an intake form. We'll send it out if you want to do an NLP session with Lance. And that is free if you're chosen to be on the show, or you can email us and ask for Lance's contact information and I'll send you over to him. I just want to make it clear that we'll get you in touch with Lance, the Rebel Mike podcast at gmail.com, and we'll see you next time. Bye.